Hello, my name is Sam Madicott, and on behalf of the BCCJ, I would like to welcome you to today's masterclass, Take Better Photos of People. This is the first in a brand new masterclass series we are rolling out. Our next one is scheduled for September, and Tanya Koch of RSA Japan will be giving a crash course on corporeal expression. We would like to remind you that this is an interactive session, and if you have any questions, please do send them in via the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. As for today, we are delighted to welcome a man usually on the other side of BCCJ events, working hard to make us look good. Antony Tran, the founder and president of Life.14, a media production agency that provides a range of photography, video, and most recently, webinar services to a diverse range of clientele. Just to share a few of the photos he's taken with BCCJ. We've always admired his ability to capture the ambience of events with his photography, and to do so with such minimal hassle. I've often asked him how he works his magic, and one of the key lessons he's always shared is not to get too bogged down in expensive gear, especially in this day and age, but instead to really understand the gear that you already have. And with that, we're very excited to welcome Antony to share his tips and tricks for taking excellent photos of people using nothing more than just a smartphone. Antony, over to you.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks for the introduction. So we're going to have our first session today. It's kind of like experimental. So please send us your comment and or your question. You don't need to wait until the end. So just to jump in, so taking better pictures of people with your smartphone. The reason of using a smartphone is because the best camera is the one that you have with you. And the smartphone nowadays, they're very smart. They're very good at knowing what makes a good picture. So I think that's a good tool for us to explore today. So again, quick introduction, Life.14, global visual production company. Again, you can have our website. You can have a look at our website and have the list of all the clients. And here we go. So the topic for today is going to be, we're going to have 3 sessions. The first one is going to be the basics. So framing, focus, exposure. And then we're going to have a little bit of discussion about retouching. So for that, we're going to use the built-in editor inside your smartphone. And we're also going to use the free app, Snapseed, made by Google. So that's going to be the same for if you have an iPhone or an Android, that's going to be the same. And at the end, we're going to have a question answer session where we're going to try to answer all your questions, or if you have any like concern or difficulties with your photography. So for the first basic of photography concepts, so framing and composition. So I'm pretty sure most of you have heard about the rule of third. That's a little bit of rule to keep in mind to have a good composition. So to show you some example, we have some familiar faces. So I'm sure you know who those people are. If you have a look, so I think you can see the mouse cursor here. So if you have a look at the line that I traced on all those pictures, so you have basically, if you divide the pictures in 3 sections, you want to have your point of interest, which is the eyes of your subject. You want to have them inside one of those 3 part of your picture. So a good way to do that is, so I'm gonna switch to another camera so you can have a good look. So inside your the module of your camera, if you go to options, so you should have a grid line option in here. I'm not sure, maybe it's a little bit bright, right? Let me just, oh, okay. Yeah, so that's the same for the iPhone and the Android phones. You should have the option of a grid line option here. What it makes is you have those lines going on. So to have a better look, I would just switch to the screen. So now you should be able to see those 3 lines, right? And to have a quick demonstration, I will have my staff today, which is Nikki.
Hi.
Okay, so here we go. So you can see the lines coming up on the phone, and if you want to have like a kind of weight balance and kind of stable to look at picture, you want to have those lines coming up at the intersection of the eyes. So you can either have them on the side, so one eye only on the intersection, or you can have a picture that's centered to that horizontal line. So for example, here I'm going to take a first picture. So Mickey is smiling. Okay, here we go. Take another one. Maybe this side. Okay, here we go. Cheese. And a last one, horizontal one. Here we go. Landscape version. Here we go. Okay. So you can see that thanks to the guideline that we got when we took the pictures are very well centered and kind of like stable when you look at them. And we're gonna see later on how to do that if you couldn't do it during the time of shooting. For example, if you took a picture that was kind of like crooked or on the side, there's a way to edit those to have them back to the rule of third. So coming back to our good people at the BCCJ, another point that we can discuss is the relation between focus, autofocus, and also the relation between distance between your subject and the background. So the next pictures are made with a bigger camera, but the concept stays the same. The farther is your subject from the background, I mean, the farther the background is from your subject, the more out of focus area you're gonna have. The opposite is true too. So for example, if your subject is very close to the background is gonna stay in focus too, and you're gonna have a little bit of shadow. So that's the main concept. To illustrate that, I will have again Mickey, who is gonna be our model for this demonstration again. Okay, here we go. So Mickey, please come close to me. Okay, here we go. So for this picture, you can see that Mickey is very close to the camera. So actually one step forward. Yeah. So since she's farther away from the background becomes like a kind of graduation of gray, and you don't have any shadows going up on the background. Now let's do the opposite. So Mickey, get back to the background. Yeah. So as she gets closer to the background, we have more shadows going on. And that's not a bad thing. That's not something you want completely to avoid. You can kind of play with that. So for example, Mickey, if you'd like to come this way, and yeah, switch to the other direction. So you can kind of frame around it. So one step this side, please. Yeah. So even if she's close to the background, you can have the shadow on either side. But the point to remember is the closer you are with your background, the more of a shadow and the more your background is going to be in focus. Okay. So switching back to the computer again. And again, today it's a very quick introduction. We just have 30 minutes for this session, so don't think that I'm going to be able to explain everything about photography in this short period of time. But at least if you can have like a good idea of what's the basic and what to look for. Okay, so the next chapter is so we're going to discuss about the brightness and the mood of the pictures. So when you take portrait of people, there's a visual language about how bright or how dark you're gonna make a picture, and that's gonna impact the impression that your subject is gonna make for the people viewing the pictures. So we're gonna see how to do the exposure compensation. So sometimes the camera kind of fight what we expect. So for example, if you want to have a brighter pictures, but somehow the camera kind of underexposed, making the pictures too dark, or the opposite. So again, we're gonna get back to our subject. Up. Here we go. So the thing to remember is the camera is gonna correct by itself the exposure, meaning depending on how bright or how dark your clothes is going to be, the camera is going to adapt to that. And that goes the same for the background. So for example, Mickey, if you can come close to me. So because today Mickey has a very dark t-shirt, the camera is going to tend to overexpose a little bit because it's being tricked by the black area that's in the frame. And the same goes if she had, for example, a white t-shirt. The pictures taken by the iPhone is going to be like a little bit darker because the camera is going to compensate for that. One way to decide by yourself and not being like at the mercy of your camera is a slider called exposure compensation. So for example, if I tap in here, you're going to have a slider coming up with plus and minus, right? And with this slider, you're going to be able to decide if you want to have a darker picture, so a little more like dramatic lighting and a little bit of cinematic kind of look, or you can have a brighter pictures. Just be careful because the iPhone or the smartphones, they have like limited dynamic range, meaning if you're overexposed too much to your pictures, it's going to be like a big area that's like totally white, and it's going to be like very hard to adjust for that, right? And the brightness can be set up with your phone, but you can also direct your subject depending on the mood that you want to create. So for example, if Mickey, can you look at the light? So for example, here we go. So we can have this kind of like where she's looking at the light, and because of that, it gives like a very kind of like hopeful and very positive kind of feeling, right? So now, Mickey, would you like to turn the other direction and just face to me? Yeah. So you can see here, because the shadows are a little more like dramatic on her face, that gives a little more like kind of mystery feel to that. And because of the shadows that are very strong, even if I kind of expose brighter, you can see it's very hard to have both sides illuminated. So you can play not only with the setup of your camera, but you can also direct your subject depending on the kind of mood you wanna provide with that. So again, a quick demonstration. So for example, a very bright picture. So you can see that with this picture, when you overexpose, you get like a very playful and a very like happy mood to your picture. And you don't have any like hard shadow. So everything is kind of like wash out a little bit of like kind of joy in that. Or you can have a darker, a little more dramatic, a little more like cinematic picture with strong shadows, very dark shadows. So that's the kind of things you can set up not only with your camera, but also by playing with where to pose your subject, if she's going to be looking at the light or if she's going to be like back to the light. That's the kind of thing you can create a mood about. So you took your picture, and either you're happy or you're not happy with your pictures. That's where we're gonna find a way to improve them. So let me switch back to the view of the camera. Here we go. So basically, that's all the picture that we took a few minutes ago. And we have a good like range of different scenario where she's facing the light and where she's not facing the light. So let's say, for example, you took a picture that you found was not very well composed. So you want to like crop a little bit, or you want to like rectify that. So there's a good thing inside your smartphone. You have an editing option. So if you click on the pen here, it brings you to the built-in editor. So inside you can decide about like if you want to like reframe your picture, if you want to like rotate the picture, and you can also again crop in different ratio. So let's say, for example, you want to make a picture for your profile, or if you want to have a picture for Instagram, then you're going to go to a 1:1 square format. Or let's say you have a picture that's a little bit, let's say, too dark. So let me get back to the original. So let's say you're happy with the framing, but your picture is a little bit too dark. So if you go to this icon, the sun, here we go. So you have, again, a slider where you can decide if you want to have like a brighter picture or a darker picture. What you can also change is the colors. For example, you can have like a warmer picture playing with the white balance, or you can have a little bit colder kind of picture. So that's the main option you have with your editing application inside your phone. Now let's say you're at ease and you know how to rectify those pictures, and you know how to improve your pictures from the standard application. So, but you feel a little bit like limited by the option you have. A good application that we kind of advise people to use, and that's kind of very easy to master, is Snapseed from Google. So if you go to your Apple Store, or if you go to your Play Store, and you search for Snapseed, that's a free application that you can download. And the advantage of that is that's a free application, but that's very powerful. So again, let me bring back a picture that we just took. Okay, let's say, for example, this one. And inside the application, you have different category. So you can have, if you go to the tools, and you have like a big range of adjustment that you can do. But to keep things simple today, if you go to the corner, so tune image, that's where you want to have the most standard setup. So inside that, you can have brightness. So again, you can have like a darker picture or brighter picture. But you also have other options that we didn't have with the standard application, which is shadow. So with this option, you're gonna affect only the shadow, the dark parts of your pictures. So meaning you're happy with the global brightness of your picture, but you want to have like darker shadows, or let's say you want to have a little more detail on your shadows. That's the kind of adjustment you can do. Or let's say you have another picture, which is, for example, this one, and you want to have it like a little brighter. So again, tune image, and you go to brightness, and you can have your pictures a little brighter, but then you kind of lose detail from your background. What you can do is the reverse of shadows, which is highlight. So in your menu, you select highlight, and you can bring down your highlight. And thanks to that, you're gonna have a good balance between your very bright part of the picture and the very dark part of the pictures, right? So again, today we don't have hours and hours of explanation. I can keep on going and everything, but I think we have a good introduction of what you can do with your smartphone, and we're gonna jump to the question answer session.
Thank you very much, Antony, for sharing that. I think sometimes that we are kind of surprised just by how much functionality actually exists in those phones. Just to remind everyone, the application's name is Snapseed. Please feel free to ask your questions on the Q&A panel. I can see one that's come in from Richard Lyle. And this is a very good point and very relevant to, I guess, what we do as well at the Chamber. That how do you take great photos of events on a smartphone, especially when sometimes you can't get close to the stage or so close to the speakers? And do you use the digital zoom function? I know you have a few hang-ups. I'll let you answer that one, Antony. Okay, so yeah, that's a good question. And the smartphone, because of their interface, are very intuitive. People know how to, like, zoom in and get closer, or pinch in and pinch out. I would say whenever possible, it's better to zoom with your feet, meaning if you can move around and if you can get closer to your subject, that's where you're gonna have like the best picture quality.
Otherwise, you can zoom in. Depending on what phone you have, sometimes you have like two lenses. So for example, the phone I'm using today, so if I can have it a little brighter, I can show you. So with my phone, there's two lenses, but if you don't have the option to zoom in, for example, Mickey, can you get over there? So let's say I can't get closer to the stage, and still I want to. Oh, here we go. So let's say I want to get closer to the stage, but I can't move. So then your only option is to zoom in. Usually, you don't want to get to the maximum of the zoom range because basically you're cropping the pictures and you're having like lesser quality of pixels. But yeah, either you move with your feet or you zoom in. The best is to zoom with your feet. If you cannot, then you take what you can, right?
I've got one for me over here. That's when you're taking pictures of people, I've realized you're very good at calming people, relaxing them, easing them into the shot to get a more natural thing rather than just jumping in front and saying, smile for the camera. Do you have any tips on taking photos of people just for your subject, how to get them kind of feeling okay and natural?
Like when you look at magazines and when you look at like pictures online, you see people doing like crazy poses and like very kind of acrobatic kind of poses, and it's not something that you can come up very naturally. So I will have again, Mickey, would you like to come in front of here so I can show you a quick tips about how to pose people. Oh, here we go. Okay, so Mickey, if you can just stand right facing the camera. So usually people, when you ask people to take picture, they're like, okay, here we go. And they get like facing the camera. And that's not an angle you want to have if you're shooting like female or if you want to be like more approachable. Because when you're facing the camera, that's a kind of like very fighting stances. That's the kind of pose that, the ramen shops owner have or that fighters have on the poster. What you want to have is a little bit of angle. So for example, Mickey, if you want to turn it a bit to the side. Yeah. So, and again, face to the camera. Yeah. So you want to have a little bit of angle with your shoulders. So you can have like, let's say a 45-degree to one direction or to the other. So for example, turn the other side. Yeah. And then you just have the face looking at the camera. And there's two benefits to that. The first one, it gives a little more like dynamic in the pictures. So it doesn't look like, somebody's waiting to have their pictures taken. And the other thing is it makes the people look a little more like in situation and a little more like living things and not like just being like in front of the lens. Also, what you can do is don't be afraid to speak with your subject. Usually people, they're like just very stiff. You can joke a little bit, and you don't need to take like 100 pictures all the time. So you can speak to them a little bit. For example, what's your hobbies, or I've read that you came in Japan last year. What do you think about it? Or you can have a little bit of chit chat, and then you can just, once they're like at ease and know that you're working with them, not against them, then you can say like, okay, keep the smile you have now, and okay, here we go, and let's do another pose. So for example, turn the other direction, and then you can chit chat a little bit, and then okay, here we go, that's a good expression, let's take another picture. So that's the kind of thing you can do to have people being less stressed and a little more relaxed.
Another really interesting point which has been brought up is the use of flash, especially for people. I know it has a tendency sometimes to kind of completely overexpose. Is there a time and place to use flash? When is that time? And how to use it wisely?
Basically flash is it's a kind of like last resource. So if you're like in a pitch dark environment and there's nothing you can do about it, like it's okay to have it. But Mickey, for example, if you can get back to here. So as much as possible, you want to use this slider, which is the one for exposure. So whenever it's possible, you can bring up a little more light with this slider, and it's going to be like a little more easy on your subject than the front on flash. If you're, for example, we can take a picture. If you go with the flash, that's going to be like a light coming right in front of you. So everything's going to be flattened. All your imperfection on the skin and all the oil on your face is going to be like showing up and like very very shining. So that's something you want to avoid. What you can do also is have your subject, so you can move your subject actually closer to a light source. So for example, okay, Mickey, come up. And so we have a light here. So for example, I can ask Mickey to face the light. For example, get closer to the light, and then you can again adjust with your slider. Anything that's kind of directional is going to give an easier look on your subject. So for example, Mickey, if turn the other side. So for example, if you were to take, and look at me, yeah. So if you were to take a picture of, for example, Mickey in this situation, instead of having like her face in the shadows, you can direct your subject and have them turn around. So for example, up. So let's say I have a hard time having her face well lighted. I can just ask her. So for example, Mickey, turn around. And just moving your subject relatively to light source and have a good illumination on your subject, that's going to be 100 times better than just using a flash that's going to be like very flat light and not very forgiving to your subject.
Okay, great. So try to, for general photography, avoid it when possible. Use the exposure settings first and kind of use it as a backup, I guess.
Yeah.
I know we've got pretty much no more time. I think 30 minutes was always an ambitious time frame to get this done. Just before we do go, I know a lot of our guests will be looking to take photos for social media.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for taking photos or even videos for social media, whether that's the kind of photos you upload or the techniques behind them?
Yeah, so the thing to remember is when you use your smartphone, there's the question of orientation. So do I take a picture being vertical, or do I have it on the side? And there's no right answer to that. The only thing that you have to think about is what's your destination? What's going to be the use of the pictures? If you take a picture for an Instagram story, then you want to take your picture vertically because then it's going to fill out the frame. If you have a picture as a profile, you want to have it maybe square. Or if you have a picture for your blog or for anything that's going to be viewed on a standard computer screen, you want to have it on the side so it fills up your screen. A good tip is this kind of grip. So let me show you. So you just kind of like hook your hands around, and what gives you is very good stability, and it also allows you to have your finger just on top of the shutter button. So that's a good grip to have and to get used to. So again, it depends on your destination, but you have the option of cropping, having it on the side, or having it vertically.
Fantastic. I think I'm going to need a bit of practice with that grip. I'm just trying on the side of the camera over here, but yeah. I'll certainly take your word for it. We have, take a screenshot, everyone. There you go. Yeah. We have reached our time for this mini masterclass. Once again, we'd like to thank Antony for taking the time to present this to you. Please do check out his website at www.life14.com. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you again next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.